There's been a lot of speculation surrounding the Chicago Bulls and what they should do ahead of the NBA trade deadline on February 5th. But one has to ask the question. We once knew that the Chicago Bulls had some interest in Jonathan Kuminga. So do we believe the Chicago Bulls will revisit the Jonathan Kuminga trade? And if the trade deadline was today, do we believe the Chicago Bulls would do anything? Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first. Cognac. Gang. Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in, like talking Bulls basketball, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, yesterday, we thought we was going to bring y'all a live watch party / live call, but apparently there was so much condensation on the basketball court with the Miami Bulls at the United Center that the hardwood that the players play on felt like butter was smeared on it. So we did not have a game last night. The game versus the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat was postponed if you missed it, but there was some people in the chat still kicking it with us, and we appreciate y'all for always still coming, laughing, asking y'all questions, talking basketball, talking, hip-hop stuff, movie stuff, just having fun while the Chicago Bulls had us waiting forever for a decision to be made whether the game was going to be played or not. But hey, now we talk about an interesting thing that myself and C-Dub talked about during that live, and that was, will the Chicago Bulls revisit the Jonathan Kuminga trade? Now, we know that there was something potentially on the table, like there was some interest that the Chicago Bulls were showing while they were going through some negotiation stuff with Josh Giddey, and while the Golden State Warriors was going through restricted free agent negotiations with Jonathan Kuminga. There were a number of reports that suggested that the Chicago Bulls had some interest in a trade for Jonathan Kuminga, hence why we are bringing up the topic today. We have not really seen much out there. There are some things, there's some speculation out there saying that, hey, there's a way that the Warriors can get rid of Jonathan Kuminga and then get a player that can help them have an inside presence that we'll break down here shortly. But those are some of the things that have been placed out there for the masses to go out there and really, really think about if this makes sense for the team. But ultimately, we all know that it comes down to the front offices that are involved. Now, when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga, this is a guy that is a forward, 6'7". No, my parents, I ain't going to do it to y'all. I know how 6'7" has been running through y'all house. We just going to keep it. We just going to keep it strictly basketball, and we ain't gonna do all this like our kids be driving us crazy when they hollering 6'7". And I know that just got on y'all damn nerves because it just got on my damn nerves. But Jonathan Kuminga is a wing player who's 6'7", who has a lot of potential, but we don't necessarily know if it can be unlocked in another destination versus with the Golden State Warriors. We've already seen that it just doesn't work over there. Everybody that plays for the Golden State Warriors, they have to orbit around the earth. That is Steph Curry. That's just how life is. If you don't play a certain way, you're not going to work with the Golden State Warriors. But for Jonathan Kuminga's sake, this is a player that has not played since December 18th versus the Suns. So you can imagine that if the Chicago Bulls are interested, you can really stand pat. And you shouldn't have to give up any draft assets, and you could potentially go after a 1-for-1 swap. You know what I mean? In fact, Clutch Paulo Mariano, from Clutch Points said that he believes that the Chicago Bulls and Golden State Warriors should do a 1-for-1. Bulls get Jonathan Kuminga, Warriors get Nikola Vucevic. Done deal. And I'll say I'm 100% on board with it. Why not? And the reason I'm 100% on board with it is because Number one, the Chicago Bulls had interest in Jonathan Kuminga in the past and vice versa. There were some reports that he was interested in the Chicago Bulls. Number two, he currently fits the philosophy of the Chicago Bulls with their, we want to have young players with experience. He is a young player that has experience. Not, you can't say that he's gotten a lot of playing time last year and this year because of his situation in Golden State, but he is still essentially a young player with experience. And the best thing that I like is the contract that he's currently on. He's currently on a 2-year, $46 million deal, with the second year being a team option. So it's really a low risk, high reward situation for the Chicago Bulls. And to be honest with you, it's probably one of the better deals that's out there if this is something that could be done with Jonathan Kuminga, the Golden State Warriors, and the Chicago Bulls. I think that's something that you will absolutely have to look at, and because you compare him next to Montes Buzelis, see what he's all about. And if he's not a good fit for the team, you have the team option to let him go or move on from him. You know what I mean? And then you will have to consider probably paying him after that second year if he does pan out. But that's something that you kick the can down the road or you figure out at a later time. But as of right now, for a team that's trying to figure out its way, you could go out there, do a low risk, high reward type of deal, and you have a way out of said deal if it doesn't make sense. Plus, you get rid of Nikola Vucevic. You send them to a team that is trying to win a championship. I don't believe that they will, but that's not I don't care. They ain't got nothing to do with me. I believe you go out there and try to execute it. But hey, there are other teams that are interested in Jonathan Kuminga that have been reported as well. One team that's been placed out there frequently is the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings have remained adamant that they are interested in Jonathan Kuminga's services. So the Bulls, we'll see if they go out there and actually try to, you know what I'm saying, entertain this stuff. Jonathan Kuminga, for all purposes, will be trade eligible January 15th. That is less than a week from today. So if the Chicago Bulls, if the Chicago Bulls are serious about trying to get something done and try to change the landscape, you can approach the Golden State Warriors with that type of deal and see if they bite, see what they say. And if they actually try to go back and forth and hit you with a counter offer, you see what the counter offer is. And if it makes sense, you are able to pull the trigger or just see what it is. Maybe you just go out there and, just do a little, I'm just checking in call. What's going to help me get Jonathan Kuminga? You know what I'm saying? Something like that. And for the Sacramento Kings, depending on what they have to offer, you don't allow them to go out there and you don't want to get in a bidding war for Jonathan Kuminga. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think that you want to get in a bidding war for Jonathan Kuminga because his value is at an all-time low. You won't even play him. You don't even want him. So why should the Chicago Bulls get in a bidding war for Jonathan Kuminga? Does not make sense to me, personally. And if they do get in a bidding war, I don't think that's a good idea, personally. And the crazy thing is that ESPN's Anthony Slater has reported that team sources have said in recent days that they'll be willing to keep Kuminga past the deadline if nothing appealing enough materializes. What the hell y'all trying to do to this young man? What are y'all trying to do to this young man? You won't play him. You won't trade him. So what's the point? Why did you go out there and waste this man's time to have him just sitting there rotting on the bench? It makes no sense to me. If these guys are actually trying to go down this route, if you're the Golden State Warriors, you absolutely have to come off of him for something. Now, I get it to where you look at the Golden State Warriors with that 1-for-1 deal, and you look at Nikola Vucevic with the Jonathan Kuminga, and they probably say, hey, they probably want a younger player attached to it. Okay, who do you want? Because it ain't many options to give you. It ain't much that teams can give you. You guys are telling us how y'all feel about him in place of his value. So how can you go out there and expect something that's appealing enough? What does that mean? So that's something that they'll have to figure out, and that ain't gonna be our problem. If they don't want to budge off of him, you want to continue to look like idiots over there and go to state and try to keep this young man on the bench. It's January 9th. He hasn't played since December 18th. What else is there to talk about? The way I'm looking at it, you should be looking for an expired contract and maybe a young player to throw in there. So fine. But if you look at past anything over the top, anything else from that, you done lost your mind. Something similar, and I don't even think it should be something similar to Trae Young being traded to the Washington Wizards. Personally, because we know Trae Young can ball and help a team get to the Eastern Conference Finals. We don't know if Jonathan Kuminga can do that. Do we believe he's talented? Yes. Do we believe he has some game? Yes. But from what y'all telling us, this man is unplayable right now. That's what y'all telling us in Golden State, right? So at the end of the day, I think the Chicago Bulls should go out there and revisit this type of trade. But if they try to get greedy, we need to be hanging up the phone and moving on. Because y'all don't even like the player. Y'all don't want to play the player. So don't think y'all finna rip us off. That's how I will play it. But obviously, we'll see how the Bulls will play it. Hey, and just a little credit. The Bulls moved off in a 1-for-1 trade with Isaac Okoro and Lonzo Ball. Right now, the Chicago Bulls look like they have won that trade because the Cleveland Cavaliers fans, they fed up with Lonzo Ball already. You have other analysts and podcasters coming out and saying that Lonzo Ball is washed. There's nothing left of him. So right now, the Chicago Bulls look like winners in that situation. Now, can you go out there and do another 1-for-1? Nikola Vucevic for Jonathan Kuminga, and we come out on the better side of that. We'll see. But hey, before we get up out of here, I want to talk about if the trade deadline was today. This was an interesting thing coming from Bleacher Report, so shout out to Bleacher Report. If the trade deadline was today, do you trust the Chicago Bulls that they would have made some moves? I say no, but it's interesting to hear what others have to say. Grant Hughes of Bleacher Report said this: the Chicago Bulls have operated as if they're happy winning 37, in between 37 and 43 games for a long time. Until they do something to suggest there's a new plan in place, why expect anything different? And that's right on the money. For everything that we talk about and everything that we have discussed up until this point on this podcast, what do the Bulls have to show at the NBA trade deadline other than acquiring Nikola Vucevic and then trading away Zach LaVine? It's not much there. I will say this. Right now, hindsight is 2020. The Bulls, no, I would say that the Bulls trade for Zach LaVine was a push. Yeah, you were able to re-sign Trey Jones. Yeah, you maybe like Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter, but it did not elevate the team. It kind of kept us in the middle, still the same as if Zach LaVine was still here. So I'm not going to say that they absolutely knocked the trade out the park, but I will say that it's kind of even. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's kind of even. It's kind of like in the same place that we were in prior to the trade. You know what I mean? So there's some things, but I agree with the guys at Bleacher Report. This is a situation with the Chicago Bulls you just can't ignore. These guys have not produced, at least well enough. Yeah, there's some small things that you can contribute and say, I bet that was good. Montes Buzelis, you know what I mean? Isaac Okoro now in hindsight. Josh Giddey deal with that negotiation. But yeah. I don't know. But hey, how would you guys feel if the trade deadline today, do you believe that the front office would have made any moves by now? Let's just say later today, the deadline is every trades are done. You can't do nothing else. Do you guys believe that the Chicago Bulls would have made any moves? I don't know. I'm not too confident in that. Not even gonna lie to you. I'm not too confident in that, y'all. But hey, that's just me. Y'all let me know how y'all feeling down below. That is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. Before y'all get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you always see red. And on the last note, the Bulls play Saturday night. We will not be live for that game. We will be on Chicago Bears Central watching the Chicago Bears take on the Green Bay Packers in their playoff game. So don't expect us to pop up for the Bulls. We got some more important stuff to tune in to. The Bulls are important, but when the other team is in the playoffs, all eyes got to be on the other team. Let's go. Bear down. Make sure y'all always see red. And y'all know we're going to be back to give y'all the recap of that game on Saturday night. We appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all always see red. Y'all already know. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace. Cognac. Gang.